Lando Norris sets a scorching time to bag pole position for the race on Sunday, while Max Verstappen, well, he had a shocking Q1 exit. Brazilian Grand Prix qualifying roundup. This is Nailing the Apex. I'm Tim Hauraney. Let's dive right into Lando Norris's incredible pole position winning lap. Conditions were really tough out there on Saturday for quali. A lot of wind, and we're going to talk about that quite a bit throughout this qualifying debrief. Windy conditions are really affecting these cars, especially this year and in seasons past, but specifically this season, really starting to notice just how much windy conditions are really affecting the downforce levels on all these Formula One cars. Norris spoke about just how challenging it was out there. He made a pretty big mistake in his first push lap in Q3. He had a big lockup heading into turn one. Essentially, he had actually broke earlier than what he is used to heading down into turn one. And didn't really know why. He had a front left lockup. Again, when you're heading down to turn one at this track in Brazil, usually that front left becomes very unloaded. So it's almost not picking up off the ground, but it's getting close to that because there's a bit of camber in turn one at the same time. So there's quite a few things happening there, but I think also the wind affecting all of that. And I think just getting a gust of wind heading down into turn one really blew that lap for him. So he said it was more stressful than what he would have liked, because he would then have to come in, strap on a new set of softs to try and go back out and claim pole position for Sunday's race. He said it was difficult because of all that wind, because of the changing conditions of it and the strength of it, he had said, because it was blowing with different force at different parts of the track. So some places it would pick up by 5 kilometers an hour, and some places it would decrease by 5 kilometers an hour. He never really knew how to predict it. He did a really good lap breakdown following qualifying, and it was really interesting to hear him say that he just wanted to keep the lap simple. And he kept repeating that. Keep it simple, keep it simple. And I think what he's sort of driving at is sometimes as a driver, you can just overload yourself with too much information, especially on a quali lap. You can really overload yourself by, I have to brake here. This is my reference. Here's what the car is feeling like. I got to get back on the power by here. I have to make sure I'm shifting gears to here. Where am I pulling that next gear? Am I pulling it sooner? Am I pulling it later? If I'm pulling it sooner, that means I've done a good job coming out of this turn. So there's a lot that's kind of going through your head. And because Lando doesn't really use he doesn't use it at all in qualifying, the lap delta, you're kind of having to process all that information, and that gives you a better sense of how good the lap actually is, especially when you're pulling the gears. Because sometimes, and this is what I used to do because we never used a lot of data when in my younger racing career, so in like Formula Ford and stuff like that, we never really used the lap timer in the car, so I had to understand where I'd be pulling gears to know how well I did the corner. If I was pulling gears sooner, so as soon as I came out of the corner, my upshifting into second, upshifting into third, where is that happening? That gave me a better understanding of, okay, I'm on the limit with this corner because I've been able to pull the gear sooner, so I am going faster. And maybe it was a little bit of that was going on with Lando at the same time, but keeping it simple is just essentially not overloading yourself with too much information, so you can just go out and kind of have a clear mind and kind of just piece it all together within the moment, then always thinking about what's next as well. So interesting to hear him say that. He was asked about how confident he's been feeling in the car, especially lately, because of how well he has actually come on strong now over the last 3-4 races. And it sounded like his confidence in Mexico was way higher than it was here. And I think it has a lot to do with the windy conditions and not really knowing where that change of direction of wind or strength was actually going to be coming from. Uh, and the other part of it is Lando and his confidence in this car, because it has been up and down, especially start the season until he got that new front suspension in Canada. Then it was revised for the British Grand Prix, and you could start to see Lando get a little more comfortable with the front end of the car itself. And then I think after summer break, a lot of work that he'd been doing personally, I think you're starting to see it pay off. And I keep saying that, but he is starting to get stronger as this season is beginning to wind down. And if you want to win a championship, obviously that's the direction that you need to go in. In the past, we always saw Lewis Hamilton. He actually got stronger when he came out of the summer break. That was usually, one of Lewis's strong skills, was to not let the whole season just wear him down. He actually always came back from summer break stronger every single time he went on to win a championship. And so I think, Lando, maybe not obviously doing the same as what Lewis had done, but maybe taking a page out of that and trying to finish as strong as he could, because we are starting to see Piastri go in the wrong direction at this moment. We'll get into that in a little bit here, but just finishing up my thoughts on Lando. He was unsure about the race pace for tomorrow, as it's meant to be a bit colder as well. And that's going to favor the likes of the Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli's behind him. And I think that's also going to favor like Charles Leclerc as well. And we don't really know what Leclerc has for that long run race pace, but the Mercedes are good. And Antonelli definitely very strong when it comes to the race pace for tomorrow, because he did look strong. He did look strong during the Friday long runs. Pirelli has brought a harder compound to this weekend. Interested to see how that will affect race strategy for tomorrow. We'll see how many stops are going to be needed. Also with weather conditions, I mean, you never know. P2, Kimi Antonelli, he was frustrated to be behind Lando again. I think he felt it was pretty tricky out there as well, and felt that it was a tricky session because of all the wind. Kimi had said that the wind was a pain in the ass during his post-race post-qualifying press conference. But he was asked, how much the team had changed the car for today. For Saturday, I should say. He said he didn't change anything because of the wind direction. Because he felt that if he had changed things for the wind direction for Saturday, the wind is supposed to be going in another direction for Sunday. And to make a change now, just to compensate for the wind, then you're going to hamper yourself for the race the next day. So that's why I was saying wind is playing such a huge role in F1 now. But interesting to note that the wind is supposedly somewhere close to what it was like on Friday. And I think for Antonelli, he's going with something a little bit more to what he had for Friday. So that includes that long run pace that I was mentioning earlier. Interesting to note, though, that Antonelli felt that the mediums, like the medium tire compound, were the same as the softs. So if you saw what George Russell did, he went out on the medium tire in qualifying in his final push run. And we'll talk about George in a second, but that medium, he felt that it was maybe a tiny bit better than the softs, but not much. And I think for himself, what he had done was a smart thing to do. He basically figured that I still have the same pace as I do on the mediums as I do in the softs. Why don't I just burn through my softs and I'll leave a fresh set of mediums for the race on Sunday? And that's what he did. And I think that's a very, very smart move on his part. And that is definitely going to play a huge role in his race tomorrow. Could this be a race that Kimi Antonelli could win? I think it is. I really feel that Antonelli could be on for race victory tomorrow if he plays his cards right, manages the DAG, and just plays it smart. I think he can beat Lando Norris. I really do. Antonelli's looks very strong this weekend. And you can really see his confidence really starting to come back. I mean, obviously he's had his dips in the season like any rookie does, but he's really bounced back nicely, I would say, over the last 4 races. And for Kimi himself to grab his first victory with Mercedes in his rookie year, what a story that would be. So yes, I would definitely watch out for Kimi Antonelli winning this thing tomorrow. Same too with Charles Leclerc, P3 for him. New rear wing for Charles Leclerc to start off quali. Hadn't run it all weekend. He felt, though, the team executed perfectly from Q1 to Q3, feels that the race pace of his car is pretty strong, and said he's really looking forward to tomorrow. He feels he's starting in a very good position, a strong position. I would agree with that. I think Lando is definitely going to have his hands full with those two drivers, and Antonelli and Leclerc, because I don't think Oscar Piastri is going to factor into, pushing for race victory. He maybe could play a tiny bit of a role when it comes to battling for P3, maybe, but Oscar starting P4. It's been a difficult weekend. I know I'd mentioned on here and on SportsCenter that this is a sort of a make or break sort of weekend for him. He needs to collect as many points as he can tomorrow, and he has to try and outscore Lando any way he can. It's going to be very, very challenging for him to do that. For Piastri, though, he felt he couldn't go any faster than what he had done in qualifying, and things felt much trickier, he said, on Saturday compared to Friday, because I felt his Friday free practice 1, his Friday's sprint quali, they were actually quite decent. It wasn't that bad, and I felt that was a good stepping stone for him to take to sort of regain that confidence within the car, within himself. He knows that Sunday he's going to have to make his way forward. I don't know if he knows how to do that just yet and put pressure on Lando. I think he was affected a lot by the windy conditions out there today as well, because he had said that the track didn't really improve over that session when we had rain. That usually washes away a lot of the grip and rubber on the track, so it leaves it as a green track, but it never really evolved throughout qualifying, which was quite strange to see. However, for Oscar, for tomorrow, he has to put his best foot forward in terms of trying to score as many points as he can. He can't have what happened to him in the sprint race, crashing, losing all those points to Lando is detrimental to his chase for a driver's title, one that I believe that he can win. But at the end of the day, I mean, Lando kicking up a lot of the wet patches that were on the exit of turn 3 or the turn 3 apex, sort of pulling that water out of the curbing. I mean, Lando wasn't doing it on purpose. I know George was laughing, saying that he was throwing out banana skin peels like it was Mario Kart. But that obviously catching out Piastri and putting him right into the wall, it's very difficult. But those are things that, as a driver, you have to be aware of. I mean, we saw Max go over it as well, and Max just able to hang on and keep the car on the straight and narrow. So, yeah, for Piastri, it's going to be a big day for him on Sunday. Isaac Hajar, the Racing Bull out-qualifying both Red Bulls is crazy, right? Like, that is absolutely crazy. He looked really good in Sector 2. He also looked like he was really fighting this car in qualifying. I think the car itself really suits this track. And I think it's a very drivable car, like I've always said on this show. And I think for Hajar, he was a little frustrated because I think he feels he could have gotten even more if they were able to sort of dial it out of the nose a bit, because the car was really on its nose. So very, very, very quick to respond on the front end of the car, which sometimes can lead to a snappy rear end. So loose rear end, one that wants to come around sometimes. And I think if they're able to find a way of getting that balance a little bit further back, I think he feels he probably could have qualified a little bit higher. He is worried about George Russell tomorrow. But it said that, look, if he finishes just behind, Russell in the points, said he'd be happy with that result. P6 for Russell, was having trouble with the softs, so he slapped on those mediums. And he said there wasn't any grip on the softs. There wasn't any grip. We heard him on the radio. He just couldn't figure it out. Why wasn't there any grip? He just couldn't get them switched on, is what he had said. Couldn't find the sweet spot, so he had said. He has the same type of setup on the car as Antonelli does for this weekend, but he had said that, one driver's style gets the tire fired up and the other one's style doesn't. So he's referring to himself and Antonelli or Antonelli and himself. So he doesn't think he has the pace this weekend, and he also doesn't feel he's going to have the pace to fight for the podium. But I mean, George is always strong in these races. I expect him to get maximum points as much as he can on Sunday. P7 for Liam Lawson. He lost some time in his final push lap. He was happy with his starting place, but he felt that he'd lost some time. He'd lost some time in a few places, and he felt that if he was able to sort of piece the whole lap together, he would have been able to qualify further up the grid. P8 for Oliver Behrman. What a performance. I mean, Behrman at some points was in the top 3 during this quali. Really impressive stuff from Behrman again. He was impressive in Mexico as well when I was there. And same thing with the USGP. I thought he was strong at the same time. Like, he's been great. Behrman said that from lap 1, he had a great feeling with the car. He said Q3, he felt it was a good lap, the second push one, but he didn't improve. So he needs to take a look at why that was. He does have really good long run pace if you take a look at his Friday stuff in FP1. So and also the sprint race as well. So he should be quite strong, I think, in the Grand Prix. I don't see him finishing P8. I see him finishing higher up. I think this is he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this race, I think, on Sunday for, maybe even top 5 in the points. Like, he's going to be really good. P9 for Pierre Gasly's first, let's see if I get the stat right, first Q3 since, if I remember, Silverstone? Yes, Silverstone. 8th of the season for himself, or excuse me, for the Alpine team getting into Q3. He was really happy with that performance, though. He grabbed a point in the sprint. He's looking for more on Sunday. P10, Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg was happy with his first Q3 of the year. That's, I know, shocking, right? But half a tenth to P5 for him was frustrating, because that's what it looks like it was. He found it difficult with the conditions today. He had a good chat with Gabriel Bortoleto following Bortoletto's massive shunt in the sprint race. He's been really good. He's been a really good teammate to him, I should say. Hülkenberg has. He's been a really good teammate to Gabriel Bortoleto. And I think Gabby's really taken in everything that Hülkenberg has been trying to teach him. Obviously, that was one of the big things for the team when they brought Nico over, was to make sure that he was helping to bring Bortoleto around. And I mean, obviously for Bortoleto, he does have others that he can lean on. I mean, Fernando Alonso being one of them for sure. And also Max Verstappen, who's like one of his good friends. The two of them did a podcast interview before the Brazil Grand Prix. It's really good. Some of the stuff that came out of it, I just saw some clips online. The two of them together. I mean, really good friendship there. And I think for Bortoleto, Max obviously being a really good person for him to lean on for advice and information when it comes to obviously the Grand Prix and racing, et cetera, et cetera. P11 for Fernando Alonso. Speaking of Alonso, he felt that the soft tire was really tricky for them. Same sort of thing as to Russell. And the car wasn't really good on it at all, as it was in the mediums. So if you look at what George had done, when I saw George in Q3 and he had said, the softs weren't really working, he couldn't figure them out, and I said, just go with the mediums, man. You've done it before in the past. I was yelling at the TV, and sure enough, that's what he ended up doing. And I wonder if Aston Martin had done something similar in Q2, would we have seen Alonso and Lance get through to Q3, because the car does look quite good here, but it's a tricky car, like we've talked about in the past with this Aston Martin machine. It 1 minute can be filling you with confidence, and the next minute can all be gone and taken away. I mean, that's what Aston Martin and these drivers have been dealing with all season long. So that's really challenging to wrap your head around. Very, very frustrating as well. P12 for Alex Albon. He thought it was a well-executed session for himself. I said that there were some races this year where it felt like last season's car felt better at those tracks than this season's car. And I think he's referring to how last year's car felt at this track and how this one feels, because he looked pretty devastated during his media session at the end of this one. He made a lot of changes to the car from sprint race to quali. And he thinks tomorrow's going to be a real challenge for them. So I think Alex is probably going to go backwards from P12. P13 for Lewis. Struggled with tire prep. I mean, took some rear wing out of the car, and hey, he figures this is where he is at the moment. I mean, it's tough if you're Lewis when you see where you've qualified and where Leclerc has qualified. But again, like, it's a tricky Ferrari to try and get into the right window and get the tires into the right sweet spot, especially with setup. And you don't have that free practice 2, free practice 3 to really dial things in. You're going free practice 1 straight into a qualifying. I mean, it's very challenging for some of these teams and drivers out there. I mean, I think for Red Bull, it probably would have been a different story for Max and where he qualified if they've had it done away with the sprint. And if you just went free practice 2, free practice 3, give them more time working on setup with the car. P14 for Lance. Q1, he said the car was good. He felt good with it. It looked really good. Like, his laps were extremely strong, outpacing Alonso. And then in Q2, he said it just slipped away from him. He said he was started to lose a lot of harmony with the car and a ton of grip that he had lost at the same time, and then just couldn't piece it all together. And I would love to know if it has anything to do with the windy conditions, because I have a feeling the wind, the gusts of wind really affect this Aston Martin. That's one of the things that I've been really looking at with this car. So yeah, tough one for Lance. He was looking pretty strong this weekend. So P14 for Lance. P15 for Carlos. Said he's been struggling all weekend. He said they put the car upside down to try and find performance from it. Well, he felt that Alex found something and with setup, and so I bet you Carlos is going to go back and have a good long look at what Albon found with setup, because he's going to want to learn from that. And that's one of the great things about Sainz. He always he's always working. He's always working hard. He'll go back late tonight and he'll be looking at everything that Alex had done, so he can, make sure he can try and replicate it if he's ever put in this situation again later this season or even next season. Because him and Albon, that little rivalry between those two at that team has been really good. Carlos has really been coming on strong and giving Alex everything he can handle, that's for sure. P16 for Max Verstappen. Max has said that the car was just not responding and he had to underdrive the car during his final push lap. He said the changes they made to the car made the car even worse for qualifying. So in Q1, Verstappen, during his one of his push laps, was first push lap, I guess it would be his first proper push lap in Q1. He made a mistake heading into sector 2. It was as soon as you start going into the slower twisty bits, he had gotten a huge snap and the car kind of just washed away on him. And so he ended up doing 2 cool down laps before starting his final push. And he had gotten a draft off of Charles Leclerc too, but just not enough for him to scrape his way through into Q2. Laurent Mecchi said they took more risks to try and put the car in a better place, but it did not pay off for them. With a lower downforce rear wing, to fix one problem in the ride quality, it created another problem with the race car itself and all of what the team tried to do. I mean, Yas, I guess, apparently left the garage quite quickly as soon as Max got eliminated in Q1, and maybe they didn't listen to Max. I'm not too sure about that. I'll be interested to see what he does for tomorrow. Could he take a new power unit? Could Max Verstappen take a new power unit? New power unit elements as well. Just take a massive change and then take the grid penalty. Have a fresh engine for the race and for the rest of the season. Because I think eventually all these drivers are going to have to do it. I think both McLarens are going to end up taking a grid penalty at some point as well for a new engine, new power unit, new components, because they're right on the limit as well. And so is Max. So could Max do it? I mean, this would be the spot where I would do it now because of where he's qualified. I would definitely take that grid penalty, take all the new components, start P20, and just whatever. See what you can do. Damage limitation on Sunday for Max Verstappen. P17 for Esteban Ocon. P18, Franco Colapinto. New contract for Franco for 2026. Crashed heavily in the sprint. Team was able to get the car put back together. That was a big effort from the team. Here's what the team, they actually changed on his car, which makes it so impressive. For Colapinto, brand new chassis. So he tubbed the car with that crash. Tubbed it. Oh, man. So new gearbox as well with power unit elements that are older that they had strapped on to the car as well for Franco. So a lot of work done there by Alpine. Good job by the team to get him out there. P19 for Tsunoda. P20, Bortoleto crashed in the sprint. Obviously, if you didn't see it, go back and have a watch of that one. I mean, he's lucky, that's for sure. The team couldn't get the car ready, though. I mean, they did their best. I'm actually really surprised with how much the team got done on that race car to try and get him out for qualifying. But the team sent me a statement, and they had said, quote, "The crew did a formidable job trying to get Gabriel's car ready for qualifying. Unfortunately, it was not possible to get him out in time for him to set a lap, but this should not detract from the effort every single team member in the garage put in. We will now shift our focus to the race." That pretty much does it for our post-qualifying podcast. Adam and I are going to be back taping Sunday night, and you should have a new episode of Nailing the Apex Monday morning when you wake up. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching and listening, and enjoy what is going to be a dramatic Brazilian Grand Prix on Sunday.